April Fool's Day 2011. I gave away my possessions and set out on a journey to serve one family in every state. I did this to learn how to be a better man. These are the people I met, and these are the lessons they taught me.
Unique surplus request, helping design a graduate school presentation about emotional intelligence. So you're a hypnotherapist?
Right.
And how long have you been doing that?
Since 1982.
Oh, wow.
So how many years was that?
Well, it's almost 30.
Almost 30, yeah. That there's multiple approaches to it for multiple types of people, of how people process information. And really when I first learned, I learned one approach. And if it didn't work, well, I guess this person isn't susceptible.
Right.
And now it's like, and now there are things that you do even before you begin the process to see, are they going to be more imaginative versus concrete versus another way of, do they need to be direct or indirect?
Okay.
And then you gear your approach to them that way. How do you change people's behaviors and knowledge? So instead of doing it in a hypnotherapy role,
Yeah.
I'm still trying to help these people change their behavior, their thinking. And now it's in some ways harder because I have to do it remotely. I'm not there.
Right.
So I have to think through what are all the questions that they're going to have as they're going through this.
So how does hypnotherapy work?
Okay, how does it work? Basically, I would give the subject, the person, a set of instructions, and as long as they follow the instructions, they'll have a nice, pleasant experience, and as long as they're opening to just let whatever happens, without trying to make it happen, and without trying to prevent it, they'll have that pleasant experience. And the thing for me is, do I give a good set of instructions? So there's that collaborative thing. I have to give good instructions. You have to be willing to follow them.
Okay.
Every relationship has this ebb and flow.
Right.
When things are going good, when you're in the flow, it's all great. When you get to those ebb times, still that willingness, you know what, I will always give more than what I get. And if this is what it means, I'll still do it. And then ultimately, it turns around and things are great again. Husband's perspective, willing to give more than what you get. And that takes a lot of trust in someone to put yourself in that position. Denny's who I'd want to spend the rest of my life with. But that was one characteristic of hers, very trustworthy. Someone who was very honest and honest to a fault at times.
Yeah. How long have you been married?
30 years.
You've been married 30 years.
30 years. And she is still my best friend.
I can see that.
I want to skydive.
Yeah?
But I can't do it until I'm 85.
Why?
Denny and I have already talked about it. Can't do it until you're 85, because if your chute doesn't open, you're 85. You've lived a good life. So we had skydiving as a class in one of our PE electives. And I went through the class, did all the practice. My parents would not sign the consent, since I was under 18 at the time.
And you didn't sign it?
I was,
Loophole. It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
Kids will do things that are funny at the moment.
Right.
But if you laugh at it, it gives them the wrong message.
Right.
So you have to act mad.
Yeah.
And so you do that. You do the performance. You act mad.
And then
But
later,
then
when
later
you're
on we're talking about
in bed with your wife, you're like, that was really funny. Yeah. It's Hamlet.
It was in Hamlet. Anyway, very famous. Everyone knows, should I know self be true?
Right.
that's the part that most people stop right there. To thine own self be true.
Right.
And then as sure as night follows day, thou canst not be untrue to any man. There is no self to find. There is a self to create. What best self are you going to choose for yourself? And that is who we are true to. Who am I? And who do I want to be?
Yeah.
What is that self that I am willing to be true to? Having grown up with a very strong faith, having been very devoted to my faith at one time, there was only one God that I knew.
Right.
And when I stopped believing in God as I knew God,
Yeah.
nothing took his place. And surprisingly, I'm very comfortable with that. You know, people say there is this God-shaped void that only God can fill.
Right.
There was no void when that was gone for me. And it's like, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. Okay, this is where we want to be. We can't afford a place on the river. But what a nice short walk here.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge you faced once you decided, okay, I don't believe in God?
You know, because I would never want to take that away from anyone else.
Yeah.
So how do I talk to people who knew me, and I would be a person that people would come for guidance,
Right.
for spiritual, they have questions, they would ask me,
Right.
and how do I still talk to them and not take away their faith?
Right.
Not wanting to hurt them
Okay.
by what I believed or didn't believe anymore. When I changed that, it's like, well, there's nothing consistent. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there is. I mean, there is still that devotion to truth.
Okay, so we're mushroom hunting.
There's only 3 mushrooms that I look for that I feel confident enough that I know these aren't poisonous. I know they're good to eat.
Which ones are they?
Boletus, morels, which are always a great find when we find them, and the shaggy mane mushrooms.
Okay.
This park here is just only about 40 acres,
Uh-huh.
almost all of it undeveloped like this. But there's enough plants out here that you could live on this if you had to. I don't know, you could probably keep several families out here alive.
Huh.
Again, we don't do that because, for one thing, not ours, but...
Right.
And it's so much more convenient to go to the grocery store at this point.
Yeah. So
they're working with sound waves that, and they've done it with other things, with brainwave entrainment. That's what it's called, where you can emulate the psychoactive effects of ibogaine, cannabis, psilocybin, and there's experimentation going on with that now. I think people tend to overestimate how happy circumstances can make them, or events, and they overestimate how tragic certain events would be. Because ultimately things happen, good and bad, and it's really what we do about it. And it's, those people who say life sucks, and those who say life is grand, who's right? Well, they're both right.
Yeah.
If I won the lottery, would my life be that much happier? Not at all. So why spend the time fantasizing about that?
Yeah.
Although there is one thing I would like to do.
What?
You mentioned you had a friend who was a commodities trader.
Yes.
There was a person back in the 30s, a commodities trader, who was able to predict within just a few points what prices would be 3 to 6 months in advance. He had some system that he could do this. I would like to know what that system was. Arrowleaf balsam root is one of those you can live off of.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
The root, the Native Americans use as a flour, but it has a lot of proteins in it that grain flour doesn't have.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can live off that. And then after that, the surface berries come up, and you can eat those and live off of that.
And then the moose that comes by.
Right, and the moose. Catch the moose that comes by.
If you want to follow this journey and enjoy the lessons it has to offer, then go to givebeck.com and subscribe to my channel.